I'm Andrew Malcolm. I'm the CEO of the Malcolm Group and co-owner with my brother Walter. Welcome you all joining us at the conference. Again, I'm looking forward to actually sharing time, knowledge and experience along with my other colleagues across the business. I'm inviting plenty of questions, please. If we can't answer them, we'll come back to you. Again, likewise, for those of you who know Malcolm's, we might not always tell you what you want to hear. We'll tell your opinion, what is doable, what's achievable, and we'd like to understand how that best supports your business and your whole ESG strategy going forward the way. So the company was founded back in 1921 by my late grandfather, Walter Hattrick Malcolm, hence the WH Malcolm and all the trucks. He started selling coal around the village of Brookfield, Bridgewere and Houston by horse and cart. And it basically came from a farming background. My grandmother came from Shawbus and Isle of Lewis and had a very strong people's approach to life. The combination of that with Granny Malcolm and my grandfather, who came from a farming background, a very strong can-do builder approach and something we've adopted throughout the business. Dad left school at the age of 13, helped my grandmother run the business, and it grew from there. My father was diagnosed with cancer on his 60th birthday and he was given 6 months to live. I still say today, if Donald Malcolm had passed away before his 60th birthday, I would be sitting here today because the PLC would have sold us, not to the highest bidder, to any bidder. Dad was 78 when he died. 18 operations for cancer because he had a very strong can-do, will-do fight. I think he knew himself at that point of view. The company wasn't ready for Donald Malcolm not to be about. In 2005, my brother and I successfully led and took the business from public back to private. I always said during the 40 odd years as part of the PLC, we're a family business caught in a PLC web. We did things the Malcolm way that was right for the long-term future of the business, and still today. And I have to say, since 2005, we've never looked back. The group's split into two key divisions. Construction was my father's background. He was very much a tipper and plant hire operator, where with this other division, the general haulage division. When I left school at the age of 17, I went into my apprenticeship in the general haulage division and grew it into what it is today, which is about 65% of the group's turnover. So we've got a very strong can-do approach in WH Malcolm, a very loyal workforce, which is our number one key asset we have in the business, with many third generations in the business and fourth family generation in the business as well. So it's a very strong people ethos we have across the whole business. Our motto in Malcolm's practical solutions, successful partnerships. We like to keep things simple, right? I always say the difference in Malcolm's is, what people talk about in theory, we do in reality. Because we're all so hands-on at looking at ways of continually investing, doing the job better, whether it be efficiency, environmentally, everything, we've always invested in tomorrow's technology today without being too far ahead. I mean, turnover is important, but we will work with all our customers how we can remove wastage out of the supply chain. We'll be lorries running empty. We're probably the largest operator of longer length trails in the UK, one of the very first into that. We can carry more product on the same number of vehicle miles covered. We've got involved in rail back in 2001, not because it's the right thing to do, because it did build the business. I mean, I can sit here with confidence and say that our road haulage fleet has not increased by a single vehicle in the last 10, 12, 15 years. Our strategy, it won't increase the next 10, 12, 15 years. We'll move more volume with the same fleet we've got. We'll move on to rail. So we're very heavily involved in that. I mean, environmentally, it's not just WH Malcolm's job, it's everybody's job. We've got to protect the wealth and health of our employees, of our customers, of the public as well. So we're very heavily involved and committed to do our part. But it's a joint effort, we all have to do that together. When we talk with politicians, I sit in a number of committees that engage with both Westminster and Holyrood about decarbonisation. The last one I sat in Holyrood, obviously, they were only focused on electric. And I explained to them in our fleet of nearly 500 trucks, it cost Malcolm nearly £50 million just to put an infrastructure in place before we even buy the electric trucks. Then there's no guarantee we can get the power supply off the network. I said, so to go down that route just now is very risky for any organisation. So we'll do a bit, it works. We'll do a bit more, it works. At the moment in time, we still see ourselves for the next few years still buying conventional diesel engines. But with an average fleet with an average age, between 3 and 4 years of age, we've always got the most modern trucks on the road. And I always say to a lot of my customers, are you price driven or spend driven? We've all got waste in the supply chain. We want to find a way to take wastage out of your logistics supply chain and working with you to do that. And by default, we'll cut our carbon footprint just by doing it more efficiently, more effectively. Dad had a great belief in life that if you can't afford to buy it, you can't afford to run it. So we're very much a business that's driven on owning our assets. sweating our assets and working them well, working them hard. Where a lot of organisations outsource certain parts of the business, we do the opposite. We bring it in-house. We don't believe in paying somebody else a margin for something we should be doing ourselves. But again, we're into recycling, reprocessing, waste management. We own landfills, our own quarries. We spent over 5 million about 2.5 years ago putting in an aggregate wash plant. So for example, we used to put 2,000 tonnes plus per day into landfill. Now 90% of that now goes to the wash plant, is recycled, reprocessed, and goes back to the contracts we're working on. So again, the one I talk about the one-stop shop, we try and reprocess what we can. It gives us something different from the rest of the parties out there. If I go back to my granny's time from Shobbas and Isle Lewis, she had a very, very strong people value. And that's something my dad inherited, and hopefully I've inherited that as well. Malcolm's whole investment strategy just now is very much investing for the next generation. Now that's not just my brother and my next generation of family, it's our employees, it's our future colleagues that come into the business as well, it's our customers. So we're investing in tomorrow's market today. So the whole ESG factor, the whole sustainability is most important to our organisation. We always talk about our workforce as a wider Malcolm family, because so many of them have been here so long. Yeah, I mean, we've got employees here now. We give out 25 to 30 long service awards every year. Yeah, I've been in the business now 46 years officially, and I would say over those years we've seen many changes. But I think that we're proving we're still here. We're 102 years old this year. Had a lovely celebration 2 years ago. Her Princess Royal came and joined us that day, and we had 150 guests in this very heritage centre. And again, it was lovely just to go through the history of the business and what we're about and where we are now. And we've now got very clear focus on what we're doing for the next 25, 30 years as well. My father would be immensely proud of the business today. And not because what Walt and I have done, but because the wider group of employees and colleagues went in the business, because that was his life. Yep. So I think today Dad would be very proud of where the business is.
Hi, I'm Lucy Strachan and I'm Group Legal Counsel and Company Secretary for the Malcolm Group. ESG issues are something that all businesses should be considering to ensure their long-term success, but it's of particular resonance for the Malcolm Group, which is a business that was established in the early 1920s, recently celebrated its centenary year, and is a company that has always had longevity and long-term success as a guiding principle for the business. The Malcolm Group has always followed the principle of creating a sustainable business, and it's demonstrated that throughout the years by the decisions that it's made. The work that we have recently done on our ESG strategy has allowed us to put a framework around all these activities that were already taking place across the Malcolm Group. The key activities that our ESG has been focused on in the last couple of years has been on measuring and understanding where we currently are across all three areas of environmental, social and governance. We've also been engaging with our stakeholders, both internal and external, in order to ensure that we are focusing on the key areas that going forward, and also identifying where we can look to continually improve and progress. The momentum for this work has really come from the main board of the company, and that support and sponsorship has been fundamental in driving the process forward. The ethos of the Malcolm Group is practical solutions, successful partnerships. And as we were developing our ESG strategy, that naturally became Practical Solutions, Sustainable Future. And that became the title of our ESG strategy. As we spoke and engaged with our internal and external stakeholders, a number of key themes emerged from those conversations, and it became clear that the three areas that were of vital importance to the Malcolm Group were our people, our partnerships, both with business and our local communities, and our planet. And it was through these discussions that we then formulated the three pillars for our ESG strategy of people first, partnerships first, and planet first. To help us with this process, we carried out an extensive analysis of the different ESG consultancies that were available to us in the market. And we held a tendering process in order to establish the right partner for us going forward. Following the tendering exercise, we selected Inspired Energy as being the right partner for us moving forward. And since 2022, we have worked with them in order to calculate our carbon footprint, and they have also assisted us with developing our ESG strategy and also carry out annual ESG assessments.
As Scotland aims to be net zero by 2045, This will require significant collaboration between different stakeholders across the country and to achieve this ambitious goal. The Malcolm Group have pledged to be net zero by 2045 and have set several near-term targets by 2030. They are developing many ESG initiatives that will enhance further their long-standing contribution to the Scottish economy and the local communities, and we are very excited to be a part of it. Being a responsible business is nothing new to the Malcolm Group, so the willingness to adopt sustainability standards into their corporate strategy reflects the ethos of this family business. The board has demonstrated sound governance, which has cascaded throughout the teams in both the logistics and construction divisions. And it is this leadership that has provided a solid foundation to support the business's long-term ESG strategy.
In order to develop our ESG strategy, we engaged with our internal and external stakeholders through a mix of surveys and interviews. The surveys that we put together included 22 different topics and asked the participants to rate them on their level of importance. Once we got all that feedback from our stakeholders, we mapped them onto a materiality matrix, and that process involved us deciding which factors that we could actually influence and how important they were to our stakeholders. Following that exercise, we were able to identify the key topics that we were going to focus on as part of our ESG strategy. What we discovered was that the responses we received from our internal stakeholders was very similar to the ones we received from our external stakeholders, where health and safety at work came out as the main topic of most importance for the social aspect, and for environmental, air quality, carbon emissions and energy efficiency were all the key topics that came through. As well as working on formulating our ESG strategy, we have also been working with Inspired Energy and also in order to undertake an ESG assessment every year, which looks at our business across 12 different environmental, social and governance categories and provides us with a rating so that we understand where we currently are, and also provides us actions for improvements and focus for the year ahead. In addition to the ESG assessments, Inspired Energy have also assisted us with measuring our Scope 1, 2 and 3 emissions, and in order to formulate a baseline from which we can identify our carbon reduction targets. Once Inspired Energy had assisted us in this process, we arranged a net zero workshop which they facilitated, which involved leaders from across the business, and where we discussed the targets that we were going to set and how we were going to achieve them. The culmination of that work enabled us to submit our letter of commitment to the Science Based Targets initiative. Overall responsibility for ESG matters resides with the main board of the Malcolm Group. This board meets 6 times a year, and they ensure that ESG matters remain high on the agenda for the group. Under the main board sits the ESG committee. This committee meets on a quarterly basis and involves subject matter experts as well as executive team members. The role of the ESG committee is to monitor our progress towards achieving our targets and to recommend actions and projects for the board to consider in order to help us achieve those objectives. To assist the ESG committee, working groups are formed on an ad hoc basis, including operational members from across the business, in order to ensure the delivery of key projects to enable us to deliver our ESG objectives. There's a great breadth and depth of knowledge across the entire business for ways that we can improve and help us to achieve our environmental, social and governance ambitions. And so it's vitally important that we ensure that people from across the business are able to participate and share their knowledge and experience with us. At the Malcolm Group, we recognise that ESG is a fast-growing and developing area, and in order to evolve with that development, we ensure that the ESG assessments are conducted on an annual basis. With the assistance of Inspired Energy, that helps us to make sure that we stay at the forefront of developments, and these assessments provide us with the actions that we need to look to consider and develop in the years going forward. We also ensure that our board are kept updated on key developments within ESG, which ensures that the business is moving forward and continually evolving in this area. We recognise that in order to achieve our objectives in all matters social, environmental and governance, we need to work together with our suppliers and our customers. So we believe it's important to be transparent about the work that we've been undertaking and what we're looking to achieve, because we recognise that we all need to work together in order to help us achieve all our collective ambitions.
Hello, my name's John McGrory and I am the Group Environmental and Sustainability Director here at the Malcolm Group. We were pleased to launch our environmental sustainability strategy at the Multimodal event in June 24. The Multimodal event is one of the largest expos for supply chain and logistics within the UK, so it was a fitting place to launch this. Malcolms have been investing and innovating since inception of the company, but over the last 2 years we've done more work to try and support that. So we've tried to understand the materiality of our sustainability aspects, as well as really in detail our scope 1, 2 and 3 emissions. One of the key things for the Malcolm Group in general, we have always been about people. We've always been about trying to reduce our impact on the environment, and most importantly we've always tried to be a partnership for our customers and suppliers rather than just the bolt-on service. So when we talk about sustainability, we talk about it across the whole spectrum of sustainability, and really now we're just enhancing that. We're taking it to the next step and realising the benefits that we can have. We have really put a lot of work into building our foundation over the years, over the 100 years that we've been here. So really we're just looking to enhance that, take that forward, embrace the challenge, because we know it's going to be a challenge. So in our environmental sustainability strategy, we've got 3 focus areas: climate action, resource efficiency and sustainable partnerships. Malcolm are a cross-sectoral business, so we have logistics, we have construction and waste management. So these focus areas bring a bit of consistency across the different sectors that we actually work in. Our environmental strategy and our key focus areas align with the UN Sustainable Development Goals, these being number 11, sustainable cities and communities, number 12, responsible consumption and production, number 13, climate action, and number 15, life on land. It's vitally important that our environmental sustainability strategy aligns with the UN Sustainable Development Goals, because this provides a framework not only for wider sustainable impacts across local and national and internationally, but also brings with it a number of different business benefits that we can receive. So in October 2023, we signed a letter of commitment to the Science Based Target Initiative in order for Malcolms to progress setting our own science-based targets. The importance of that for the Malcolm Group and for businesses in general is that your decarbonisation pathway is aligned to climate science. For us, we have set near-term targets and longer-term targets. For our near-term targets, we have got a 42% reduction in our scope 1 and scope 2 absolute emissions by 2030, and that's from a baseline of the financial year 2022. And in the same timeline, we have got a 25% reduction in our scope 3 emissions. Supporting the targets, which is primarily for decarbonisation, is a number of different KPIs across water, waste, biodiversity, and this is to ensure that not only are we targeting carbon, we're looking at the full spectrum of sustainability. For our science-based targets, we aim to have these validated by the Science Based Target Initiative by 2025. So sitting under our focus areas within our strategy, we have designated a number of key themes. So under climate action, we have got alternative fuels, optimising rail, vehicle and plant technology, and adaptation planning. Under resource efficiency, we have water, energy, we have biodiversity, and we have materials and waste. And under our sustainable partnership focus area, we have digital innovation, workforce training and engagement, and industry collaboration. Alternative fuels will play a huge role within our environmental sustainability strategy and the success. So we see alternative fuels as bridging the gap between now and when electric technology and hydrogen technology matures. We certainly don't see alternative fuels as the silver bullet or the end of our journey, but we do realise that we need to incorporate these within our activities to start making significant progress along our sustainability strategy. So we have trialled a number of different fuels. This has included bio-compressed natural gas, bio-liquid natural gas and HVO. These trials have been very, very important because we have to make sure as a business we fully understand the limitations of any of these such fuels which may have on our business. In terms of promoting or utilising alternative fuels, HVO provides the most practical option. It's a direct drop-in replacement for diesel. It requires no mechanical changes within the fleet itself. Rail freight plays an integral part of our environmental sustainability strategy. Malcolm have been conducting rail freight for over 20 years now. In that time, we have moved over 700,000 containers. That has enabled 20 million road miles to be removed from the road. In terms of rail freight itself, this comes with a number of environmental benefits. One being the carbon reduction that you can expect from rail freight, with up to 76% saving versus equivalent road route. Rail freight also reduces particulate matter and nitrogen oxide, for example, when you're looking at it as an equivalent to the road. And last of all, really, the rail network has got huge potential for full electrification. It's a natural fit for businesses to promote a decarbonisation approach. We know we need to work alongside industry bodies and governments within the UK to try and not only show them the benefits of rail, but also unlock those growth potentials. With over 500 trucks, 1,200 trailers, and approximately 200 pieces of heavy plant, our fleet is the Malcolm brand. Alongside our people, it is by far our biggest asset. Making sure they run efficiently and effectively is imperative, not only to how we do business, but obviously from this environmental sustainability strategy going forward. Over the years, Malcolm have always been the one to invest, whether that be Euro 6 STEPI engines, how we use telemetry to really understand the data and the operational abilities of our fleet, and how we can drive improvements using such data. One of the things that Malcolm do also is we bring everything in-house. So all our maintenance is done by us in-house, so we can maintain those high standards. Through the investment and the continuously reviewing of performance across our fleet and operations, we are effectively reducing the energy required to go about our daily operations, which is critical when implementing the energy hierarchy. Now, when we're talking about engines in particular, we're not talking about carbon emissions, we're talking about those air quality emissions. So that's your particulate matter, your nitrous and sulphurous oxides, for example. So as you go through the different stages, then effectively your emissions are reducing in general. So I think by 2026, it's estimated that such emissions, such as your particulate matter and your NOx, will reduce approximately around between 70 and 80% based on what they were doing in 2013. So one of the key elements that we're trying to promote and engage with is we understand we're on this journey in terms of sustainability and decarbonisation, but we can't forget there's so many different aspects that's included in that, and maintaining our fleet is so critical to fundamentally make those changes across all emissions. We are expecting our first all-electric tractor unit, which will be integrated within our fleet towards the end of summer 2024. The real idea behind this is to start to understand the capabilities of an all-electric tractor unit. So we appreciate and we understand that it's going to be quite challenging. We understand that we've got a payload penalty because of the weight restrictions of the battery. We know that we have range anxiety. We know it's different ways we maintain these. So all these factors are going to be assessed over a 12-month period, and then that will help us really structure the movements on where we're going next. how we can bring infrastructure into our facilities in terms of charging, for example. If we look at our logistics business, fundamentally it's getting goods and products from A to B, but that requires an intricate number of moving, handling, storage, for example. So our approach is to look at that through the whole process, and we call it the whole process approach. So it's looking at how we move goods. So for example, at a warehouse or a depot, what kind of forklifts are we using? Is there anything that we could change there, whether that be from an electric point of view? Also how we store goods. So we've got over 6 million square foot of warehousing across the UK. It's how energy efficient our warehouses are. And then also trying to embed a culture of behaviours within our staff who can really make a difference towards our sustainability journey through the correct training and the tools that they need to do their jobs. The Malcolm Group ethos since inception has been practical solutions, successful partnerships. In terms of innovation, we understand that the best way to innovate is by having your customers, your suppliers, your people all involved in that process. We want to do more with less, fewer journeys, less carbon, less congestion. One of the key things for Malcolm's is when it comes to innovation, we innovate based on what the customers need. It's really, really interesting when you look at some of the examples of that. So there was one example of the 50-foot container. So what they call that is you would cube out before you weigh out. So obviously with the restrictions on road transport and the weights available, then if you've maybe got goods by volume, for example, then you can technically take more because it's not weighing any different. So the 50-foot container was really, really interesting. The only reason Malcolm could successfully innovate that was by listening to what our customers needed, but then also working with our supply chain in order to design and make sure that's the kind of solution to go forward with it. And there's a lot of running sort of themes like that through Malcolm's, and at the heart of it is actually understanding what the customers need. So if we can understand what customers need, we can understand what our business is and what our sort of capabilities are, then innovation just comes naturally with that. So the Malcolm Group have been working to move from a linear economy of take, make, waste to the circular economy, which is reduce, reuse, recycle, recover. Malcolm, as part of Malcolm Construction, own and operate our own material recycling facility. And over the years we've invested quite heavily in the equipment used there so that we can ensure that we optimise our waste recovery options for the customers that we bring in. So in 2011, Malcolm opened our first wash plant. It was located at our Shilton quarry. In 2022, we successfully commissioned and opened our new wash plant facility at our Loanhead quarry. Between 2022 and May 2024, we've successfully run over 1 million tonnes of soil and stones which would have potentially went to a landfill and been able to produce top quality and compliant recycled aggregate products, including gravel and sand. So embodied carbon is the carbon that's emitted during the extraction, the processing, manufacturing, transport and end of life of materials and products. Materials with a high embodied carbon include things like your concrete and steel. As Malcolm Construction, we are involved in a number of large civil engineering projects which require high quantities of these sort of high emitting products. So what we are pushing and looking to do is we understand that in order for us to reduce our embodied carbon and to help our customers do that, we need to be involved at the earliest possible stage. We have to have a number of stakeholders involved in these conversations. We have to look to reduce our material intensity, whether that be using new engineering methods to reduce, for example, concrete floor slabs and use alternative materials. So materials which may be more environmentally friendly, or those materials which have environmental product declarations, for example. In 2023, we commissioned a life cycle analysis of both our quarried products, which is the virgin products, and our recycled aggregate products. So in doing that life cycle analysis, we were able to understand the carbon impacts of both materials. As we progress through our environmental and sustainability strategy, we are confident that we can take the right decisions, work with our customers, work with our suppliers, work with our people, our local communities, in order to provide a lasting impact to all those involved in the Malcolm operations.
Despite being over 100 years old, we've got really solid foundations already as a business, but they get lost along the way. We have to put things down in writing so our colleagues understand what's expected of them over time. And that's why we built, first of all, our values, but then our behaviour framework. We actually met with a lot of our colleagues. We held focus groups to try and get their feedback on what the business means to them and what they believe we stand for. Through that, we were able to come up with certain words and phrases that we believed were in the Malcolm's DNA. Our 5 values are care for people, pride in our work, promises delivered, trust and integrity, and mutual respect. It's important to have our values and our behavioural framework because over 100 years we have conducted ourselves in a certain way. Over time, through experience leaving the business, that gets lost. We want to remind people of what our genuine values are so that they are lived and breathed. Having our framework allows people to make decisions based on what's right for the company, not making decisions on an independent basis, but considering what's right for our customers and our colleagues. Health and safety is really a priority for our business. It's evident in our value care for people, where we literally explain that we want people to go home to their families at the end of the day. We ensure that our colleagues go home safely at the end of each day by having a robust health and safety culture. Aside from the regular meetings we have in health and safety, we also operate a PSC system. PSC stands for Personal Safety Coaching, which allows our managers, our trainers, our colleagues to give feedback in real time on good practices and also practices that might need a little bit of correction. As with everything in our values and specifically our behaviours, it's important for us to hold ourselves accountable against these behaviours, and particularly when it comes to the health, safety and well-being of our colleagues. Mental health has been a real big focus for the organisation since last year, the middle of last year. We entered into a partnership with a company called Mental Health and Business. It's a 3-year partnership and there's many different facets to that. So we've trained around 40 mental health first aiders in the business. We've trained every single line manager on managing mental health with their colleagues. And we have monthly webinars for every single colleague to be able to attend. We record those as well so that colleagues that are on shift can watch them at a later point. What we've found through having our mental health and business platform is colleagues are reaching out more organically. They're having chats offline through our Blink social media platform where they can connect with somebody to share their concerns around mental health, and that person needn't necessarily be based in their location. It could be in another depot across the UK. A lot of our business has siloed working, so we have people spending several hours a day on their own. It's lonely. So to be able to reach out to colleagues all across the business is a way of connecting them in a way that we hadn't connected our colleagues before. We actually introduced Blink before we introduced our values and behaviours framework. We actually wanted to use Blink as a tool to be able to gather that feedback from our colleagues to shape our values. Because at the end of the day, the Malcolm's family is wider than just the Malcolm's family members. We wanted their input. And we realised that with having transient staff, people that are not desk-based, over 75% of our colleagues aren't desk-based, we were missing out on gathering their feedback. So we wanted to reach out through our Blink platform and get their feedback to put into our values and behaviours. Ultimately, we want to have consideration for our colleagues' physical and emotional well-being as part of our wider health and safety agenda, but so too living with our values. So in terms of things in place to support and develop our colleagues, we do have many colleagues with a long length of service. We have up to 50 years length of service in the business, and many of our colleagues have learned on the job from the previous generations. What we know now is that we want to provide frameworks for our colleagues to develop themselves and have career paths within the business. We've traditionally done this very organically. It's happened by word of mouth, by coaching, developing within teams. But we are a big business, we're spread all across the UK, and we want to know what career path people coming through want. So our people strategy is developed from feedback that we gain from our colleagues. Our engagement survey gives us a huge amount of feedback from each of our colleagues across the business and allows us to shape that strategy right through the whole employee life cycle, making sure that we are doing the right things to attract colleagues to the business, develop them when they're here, and ultimately retain them. And we do that through engagement. We want to engage our colleagues naturally through their relationships with their managers, their career development plans. We collect feedback annually through our 70-question survey, but we also do a temperature check throughout the year using our Blink platform, really to check whether or not the initial feedback we got is still on track to shape the people strategy. One key piece of information that consistently comes through the engagement survey is communication. Colleagues want to be communicated with more and more frequently. So we have included now in our Blink monthly offering a video from Andrew Malcolm, who talks about what's going on in the business in that month and what's coming up in the next month. The Malcolm Group supports many charities, but we don't publicise this massively. We do it because it's the right thing to do. We support lots of charities, home and abroad. We started pledging support to TransAid 10 years ago. The organisation supports 23 countries across the world in supporting people to build the skills to transform their own lives. Our support doesn't just consist of annual financial donations to support new transport solutions in developing countries, but we have donated 3 HGV vehicles and seconded colleagues to Tanzania as part of the Professional Driver Training Project. This project creates jobs, provides stability for families, improves road safety and reduces road-related injuries. We support many different initiatives in the UK, but our showcase charity event is our Donald Malcolm Memorial Ball. 2023 was the biggest yet, and the event raised a staggering £287,000. 75% of those monies raised were donated to the Beatson Cancer Charity, and the remaining 25% was given to the recently established Donald Malcolm Foundation. The launch of the foundation will also see us support Maggie's, everyone's home of cancer care. Maggie's was established to give all the support the hospital couldn't, psychological and practical support from experts in beautiful surroundings. At Malcolm's, we know that cancer will affect everybody at one stage in one way or another. We are proud through the Donald Malcolm Foundation that we can partner with charities that affect the lives of our colleagues and their families. We have decided to partner with a local hospice in each of our depot areas. This means our giving back strategy is truly inclusive of the wider Malcolm's family. The Malcolm Group are successful because of the many generations of families that have worked for us over the years. We want to continue to do that and offer that to our local communities. We partner with Braveheart to make sure we've got access into local schools, to sponsor events and really showcase what our employment offerings are to our local communities.